In a significant escalation of North American trade tensions, Ontario has imposed a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. This decision under Prime Minister Mark Carney's leadership could cost the U.S. $110 billion annually, affecting power supplies to 1.5 million homes across Minnesota and New York. The announcement comes as President Trump increases tariffs against Canadian aluminum and steel, pushing U.S. Canada relations into uncertainty. Ontario Premier Doug Ford's retaliatory measure signals a shift from diplomatic patience to direct economic action. For weeks, we've faced mounting uncertainty from President Trump's administration, stated Premier Ford. Each day brings new tariff threats, and we've reached our limit. The timing coincides with Mark Carney's appointment as Prime Minister. Carney, known for his economic expertise, must manage this trade crisis while reshaping Canada's policies. Industry analysts suggest this could begin a broader shift in Canada's approach to international trade. The electricity surcharge targets U.S. regions dependent on Canadian power, showing a calculated response to Trump's trade aggression. The situation remains volatile, with Ontario officials indicating potential surcharge increases if U.S. trade pressures continue, risking a prolonged economic confrontation between the allies. Prime Minister Carney must balance protecting Canadian interests while preventing a full-scale trade war. His background in international finance could prove crucial as Canada navigates these challenges. The impact extends beyond immediate economic effects, potentially reshaping North American energy markets. With 1.5 million American homes affected, political ramifications could be significant, especially in border states dependent on Canadian power. As both nations prepare for potential escalation, the international community watches closely. This development marks a critical moment in North American trade relations, with implications for years to come. In a significant escalation of trade tensions between Canada and the United States, Ontario has implemented a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to American states, directly responding to President Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods. Premier Doug Ford's administration estimates this will add approximately $100 per month to affected American consumers' electricity bills, generating between $300,000 to $400,000 in daily revenue for Ontario. "I feel very sorry for the American people," Ford stated, "because they didn't start this trade war. There's only one person responsible: President Trump." The Premier emphasized that the revenue would be redirected to reduce electricity costs for Ontario taxpayers. The implications are substantial, with calculations suggesting a $110 billion annual burden on U.S. electricity imports from Canada. Ontario has also removed American alcoholic beverages from LCBO shelves and barred U.S. companies from government procurement contracts. The electricity surcharge implementation comes through Energy Minister Stephen Lexie's directive to the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO. Under this arrangement, any generator selling electricity to the U.S. must include a tariff response charge, with the IESO collecting these funds monthly. Ontario maintains the flexibility to adjust the surcharge amount in response to U.S. actions. This comes on top of existing federal retaliatory tariffs on American goods worth $30 billion. Minnesota, which receives minimal electricity from Ontario, has responded through Governor Tim Walz, who criticized Trump's initial actions. While the direct impact on Minnesota may be limited, Walz emphasized that Trump's trade war primarily affects struggling Americans. Ford stressed the importance of building on strengths rather than weaknesses in bilateral relations, noting his productive meetings with 3 governors who understand the situation we're in. The controversy highlights growing tensions between the 2 strongest, most resilient, wealthiest, and safest nations in the world. In a dramatic escalation of U.S. Canada trade tensions, state officials and industry leaders are grappling with the fallout from Ontario's 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the United States, while President Trump's aggressive response raises concerns about further economic disruption. Michigan officials have expressed worry about power grid stability, with Matt Helms from the Michigan Public Service Commission highlighting the interconnected nature of the U.S.-Canadian electricity system. Any disruption to these flows removes a crucial layer of protection, making both nations more vulnerable to grid-scale disruptions, Helms explained, though noting immediate impacts on Michigan consumers would likely be minimal. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul has ordered a comprehensive review of the tariff's impact on energy costs. She criticized the federal approach, stating, "These tariffs were poorly designed from the outset, crafted in secret without transparency or clear economic justification." creating uncertainty among New York families and businesses. President Trump's response was characteristically forceful, labeling Canada a tariff abuser and threatening to eliminate resource subsidies. "Our tariffs are reciprocal. We will take them all back," Trump declared on April 2nd. Ontario Premier Ford has escalated the situation by suggesting potential reductions in hydroelectric power generation and, more provocatively, calling on Alberta to consider using its Trump card. Its crucial oil exports to the U.S. Americans will lose their minds when gasoline prices go up 90 cents to $1 a gallon, Ford stated, comparing the situation to trade dynamics similar to those affecting natural gas supplies in Northern Europe. However, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has firmly rejected Ford's suggestion, calling it ridiculous and refusing to participate in any export tax scheme. This internal discord among Canadian provinces mirrors the complex nature of North American energy interdependence and trade relationships. In a dramatic escalation of North American trade tensions, incoming Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has taken a firm stance against U.S. economic pressure, declaring America is not Canada, and Canada will never be part of America in any shape or form. Carney, who secured an 86% victory in the Liberal Party leadership race, is set to replace Justin Trudeau within days. The former governor of both the Bank of Canada and Bank of England brings his economic expertise to a challenging role. The transition comes amid increasing U.S. trade aggression, with President Trump imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods, followed by levies on lumber and dairy products. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has indicated steel and aluminum import tariffs will resume March 12. Trump's suggestion about making Canada the 51st state through economic pressure has ignited patriotic resistance across the country. Canadian consumers have launched boycotts of American products, while officials seek alternative trading partners. In his victory speech, Carney employed hockey metaphors. "We did not ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So Americans, make no mistake. In trade as in hockey, Canada will win." The incoming Prime Minister has committed to maintaining retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods until the Americans show us respect and make credible commitments to free and fair trade. These revenues will support worker protection programs. Ontario's recent 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. exemplifies this hardening stance, though some provinces, like Alberta, express concern about potential job losses. The situation mirrors similar tensions seen in current global trade disputes. Carney is expected to call an early election after taking office, seeking a mandate to implement his economic vision and trade policies. The move comes as Canada grapples with redefining its relationship with its southern neighbor while protecting its sovereignty. Prime Minister Mark Carney has unveiled an ambitious plan to establish Canada as the strongest G7 economy, despite U.S. trade tensions and domestic political challenges. Carney, the former central bank chief known for his crisis management during the 2008 financial crisis and Brexit, is pushing for major economic reforms, though his political inexperience poses challenges. His strategic vision includes developing new trade corridors and positioning Canada as an energy superpower. After leaving his positions at Brookfield Asset Management and Bloomberg, Carney has committed to revolutionary economic policies. "We can give ourselves far more than Donald Trump," Carney stated, emphasizing that traditional approaches won't suffice. His reforms include reconsidering liberal plans to increase capital gains tax, eliminating the consumer carbon tax, and leveraging federal resources for infrastructure projects. A key innovation is his proposed split of the federal budget, maintaining balanced operations while allowing capital spending for productivity. This dual budget strategy aims to unlock billions for infrastructure without compromising fiscal responsibility. The political timeline is uncertain, with Canada facing a mandatory election by October. The Liberal Party's minority position could force an earlier spring election, particularly crucial given U.S. trade tensions. Recent polls show the Liberals gaining ground against the Conservatives, reversing a year-long deficit in support. However, Conservative leaders have launched campaigns targeting Carney's leadership credentials. The Prime Minister must decide whether to call an early spring election, potentially leaving Canada with an interim government during trade disputes, or govern longer through coalition support. This choice could dramatically impact Canada's economic future and international trade position. Breaking news on escalating tensions between Prime Minister Mark Carney and opposition leaders, as accusations of transparency issues take center stage in Canadian politics. Conservative leaders have launched a direct attack on Prime Minister Carney, demanding full disclosure of his financial holdings and business interests. The controversy stems from questions about potential conflicts of interest and his involvement with Brookfield's headquarters relocation to New York last year. In response, Carney brought up opposition leader Pierre Poilievre's past confrontations with Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem. Carney accused Poilievre of attempting to undermine the central bank during economic uncertainty, highlighting the growing rift between political figures. The political drama unfolds against Ontario's 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the United States, sending shockwaves through international energy markets. With potential annual costs reaching $110 billion for U.S. electricity imports, this decision marks a significant escalation in trade tensions between the North American nations. As Canada navigates these challenges under Carney's leadership, the stakes remain high. His approach to managing trade wars, energy policies, and diplomatic relationships will shape bilateral relations and global economic patterns. The former Bank of England governor faces the task of balancing aggressive trade measures while maintaining Canada's competitive edge. His criticism of conservative climate policies suggests a commitment to sustainable economic development, though questions about his corporate ties persist. This period in Canadian politics comes as similar economic challenges affect regions worldwide, including the situation in territory bordering Russia, where energy politics play a vital role in international relations. Stay tuned for continuing coverage of these developing stories and their impact on global markets. We'll keep you updated on how these political and economic movements affect your investments and daily life.